UFC 287. What's up, guys? Happy Passover and early Easter to those who celebrate. We got a betting breakdown of UFC 287. The rematch between Izzy and Alex Pereira. I don't know what if 3 fights is a trilogy. I don't know if this is a quadrilogy or whatever. But this is going to be a sick fight, and we got a great card, and I'm going to go through all of the cards from the prelims to the main card. I'm going to skip some of these ones that are kind of boring and I don't really care about, but we're bringing picks for every single matchup. So, without further ado, starting off the card, we got Jaqueline Amorim versus Sam Hughes. I'm going with Sam Hughes here. Jaqueline Amorim is a Brazilian prospect. I think she's like 10-1. Sam Hughes is hovering a little bit above 500. Let's see what her record is. Whatever. She's like 7-5. I'm going with Sam Hughes here. I like that plus money. I think we're seeing a lot of these prospects, women's prospects, come join the UFC and get their hype trains derailed a little bit. I think the experience is going to play a big factor in here. So we're going Sam Hughes. Moving along, we got Shayilan versus Steve Garcia. I'm taking Steve Garcia in this one. Shayilan was most recently involved in that whole James Krause situation. So he's coming off a KO win. That was kind of fluky. The guy had no ACLs or whatever going into the fight. So he is 4-1 in his last 5, but let's call it 3-1. Steve Garcia, on the other hand, 3-2, coming off a big win over Chase Hooper, where he really just dominated him on the feet, cracked him a bunch of times, and got the finish. I think Steve Garcia's got the better hands of these two, and I think it's going to be a lot of them just throwing at each other. And Steve's got cleaner striking and better power, and I think that's a combination to get him the win here. Moving along, we have Ignacio Bahamondes versus Trey, Ogden. Bahamondes is a big favorite at minus 350. I think he's even creeping up to minus 400 now. And you can get Trey Ogden at plus 300. I'm really liking Trey Ogden for the value in this fight. Bahamondes, this is going to be a really big, huge fight for him, really, because I think he started building up that hype train when he had that spinning heel kick knockout. You saw that one all over social media. He's getting those clicks. His name's starting to pop a little bit, but he's got to keep the train. He's got to keep the streak going. He did have a loss in between that KO, so I think another loss can really derail his hype train. But Trey Ogden, I think that's a tough matchup for him. He's pretty solid. He's giving up a few inches in height and on reach, but Ogden's been in there a lot. He's really solid everywhere, and I think Bahamondes might get in trouble trying to be too flashy, and Trey Ogden's going to surprise a lot of people. So I think he'll get a decision win here. Of course, wouldn't be shocked if Bahamondes won or even put him clean out, but for the value here, I'm going Trey Ogden. Next is Loopy Godinez versus Cynthia Calvillo. I'm rocking with the same logic as the first fight on the card. I'm liking Cynthia Calvillo at plus 220. She's only 1-4 in her last 5, whereas Loopy is 2-3 in her last 5. But I like the experience that Cynthia has over Loopy, and I'm liking that plus sign. Next up is a banger fight in the middleweight division: Joe Pyfer versus Gerald Meerschaert. If you go on the Dana White contender series, you better bring it like Pyfer. Those are Dana's words, not mine. But I do agree with him a great deal. Pyfer just brings it every time. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and I think he's gonna add another win to that win column of his over Gerald Meerschaert. Meerschaert actually is coming off a big win over Bruno Silva, and I think he's 4-1 in his last 5 after getting put clean out by Hamzat. So, I'm not going to hold that one against him. That was one of those just one-shot KOs, and I think he's rebounded well from that. But Pyfer's just got those fast hands, and he's violent. And I don't think Gerald's really got that violence factor with him, if I'm being completely honest. So I think Pyfer will catch him in one of these striking exchanges. Gerald will probably try to bring it to the ground, but if he's unable to do so, which I think is a distinct possibility, Pyfer will get a KO finish here. Next up is Chase Sherman versus Karl Williams. Karl Williams is a late replacement for Chris Barnett, Big Papi, so he is coming in on short notice here, and in spite of that, he is a minus 400 favorite over Chase Sherman. I think most people's grandma would be a minus 400 favorite over Chase Sherman. He's just that kind of guy. He goes out there and he gets beat up on. But that being said, I know I kind of set the precedent there that I was going with Karl Williams, but Chase Sherman, I think there is some value there. He's sitting at like plus 330, and he has gotten a win over Jared Vandera, and I think if he can miraculously keep it standing, maybe Karl Williams isn't going to be in tip-top shape, but because he's taking this on short notice. So that's my only hesitance there, but no, I'm changing my mind. Karl Williams is going to steamroll him. Just, forget I said any of that. Next is Luana Pinheiro versus Michelle Waterson. Luana is 5-0 in the last 5. She's got wins over a lot of these other women on this card, whereas Michelle Waterson is 1-4 in the last 5. She's a somewhat sizable underdog here. Underdog here is Michelle Waterson. She's sort of on the tail end of her career, but you know what? I'm just been loving these underdogs in some of these strawweight fights, so I'm just going to stick with it. I think Michelle Waterson's got the experience over Luana. I know she does, and if she really is serious about prolonging her career and sticking around, this is a must-win fight for her, whereas Luana, she does have that 5-win streak. I don't know if she quite has as much to fight for as Michelle Waterson. I'm going to go with Michelle Waterson. Next up, approaching that main card, we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Chris Curtis. This is a pretty even fight. Kelvin being a slight favorite at the time of this video. Chris Curtis is a really popular underdog pick, and I'm going to ride him as well. We've seen a lot of inactivity out of Kelvin Gastelum as of late. Whereas Chris has been getting in there, and he's been getting some pretty key wins. He's coming off a KO over Joaquin Buckley. And before that, he had a solid streak going. Only Jack Hermanson was able to take a win from him in his most recent fights. So he still has a lot of momentum. I think has the better boxing of Kelvin and the better defense. I think most importantly, he really knows how to use head movement to stay out of the way of big, powerful shots. And Kelvin is the type of dude who he's a brawler just at his core, which I respect the hell out of him for that. But that's not the type of guy I think who is going to be effective against Chris Curtis. So I think Curtis's boxing is going to get him the win here. I think he's feeling a little disrespected that he got kicked off the main card from Raul Rosas. He's been posting videos talking hella shit about Raul Rosas, who's had homeroom yesterday. Dude's still in high school, so that's kind of a weird look, Chris, but I get where you're coming from. This kid hasn't proved much, and you've been around the block, so I think he's got that chip on his shoulder. He's gonna want to put on a show, and so I think he could get a KO knockout, a KO performance here. I think he's gonna really go for a stylish finish. Next is Raul Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. I don't know the first thing about Christian Rodriguez. People say he's pretty decent. I don't really need to hear anything. I think Raul Rosas is the UFC is going to want to carve a path for him to at least get a shot at becoming the youngest champ ever. I think that's the reason why they brought him in at such a young age. The kid's super talented well beyond his years. His jiu-jitsu is already up there with a lot of these contenders in that division. He claims he out-grappled Aljamain. I don't know if I totally, like, I'm sure there's some fluke factor there that Aljo was just not going too hard and Raul was just going balls to the walls. But regardless, I think Rosas gets a sub here. He's, this just kind of reeks of one of those hand-picked opponents that the UFC is like, can say is going to be an impressive win for Rosas, but they kind of know that their boy is going to have a distinct advantage in one aspect of the game, this being like the ground game. So, yeah, I think a submission here would not surprise me one bit. Next is Kevin Holland versus Ponzinibbio. Holland is a pretty sizable favorite at minus 260, which I think is shocking to a lot of people, including myself. I would have thought this would be closer to an even line, considering Holland got the shit kicked out of him by Wonder Boy really not too long ago. Broke his hand in the fight, could only throw with one hand. Ponzinibbio is not the striker that Wonder Boy is at all. He's more of a conventional, more of a boxing style. But I think if Kevin Holland makes the mistake of standing up with Ponzinibbio and not really mixing up in the grappling and stuff, I think he's going to run into some issues. He could get caught. So Ponzinibbio wasn't the most impressive in his win over Alex Morono, but still showed that he's got that finishing ability. Holland, we haven't seen him do any crime stopping, which is alarming. Usually he's apprehended some sort of robber, carjacker, or something by now. So I think he's off his game. And for those reasons, I'm going Ponzinibbio, probably by decision. Moving up the card is Adrian Yanez versus Rob Font. Yanez is riding a big 9-win streak, including 5 in the UFC, whereas Rob Font, he's lost 2 in a row after having been on a sizable streak of his own. Of course, Rob Font lost to Jose Aldo and Chito Vera, so he's been in there with the top guys for a bit now. Yanez definitely has impressed as of late. He got that KO over Tony Kelly, which I'm not going to really be too impressed by in terms of competition, like level of opponents. It's pretty clear that Rob Font has had the better opponents as of late, and I think that experience is going to benefit him a lot. There's only a 3-round fight, which also benefits Font because he's a big output guy, and I think he's going to know how to pace himself for 3 rounds where he's keeping up the pace that entire time, throwing a lot of strikes, and able to get himself to a decision win here. I don't think he's not going to knock out Yanez. That's just not his game at this point. So I think Font finds a way to get back in the win column here, really puts the pressure on Yanez, and Yanez just has not faced a striker on the level of Rob Font yet. So it'll be interesting to see how Font does. I think he made the right move by taking a lot of time off since his Cheeto fight, where he took a lot of damage. He got rocked basically every single round of that fight, all within like the last 10 seconds of the round. So Yanez, he really has a big opportunity to put his name on the map here. I just think Rob Font is too experienced and too skilled of an opponent. I think we get a submission win here. Actually, yeah, I said decision. He said in an interview that he was going to get the sub. So I'm switching my pick actually to submission win because I like when these fighters call their shots. And I don't know, something about his demeanor. I think he's going to want to choke somebody. So sub win by Rob Font. Moving along. Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal, the co-main event of this card for the true king of Miami, not named Pitbull. I think Gilbert Burns wins this one. He's a huge favorite, but he's just been more proven as of late, performing against the top guys in the division. He not only hung in there with Khamzat, he had a really solid chance of winning that fight, and I think you can make an argument for him winning that fight on the cards, even though I'd probably give a slight edge to Khamzat. But that's just he lost zero stock from that performance, especially in retrospect now, seeing as Khamzat's just so much bigger than everyone in the division, and he's basically a middleweight cosplaying as a welterweight. So, so Gilbert, he's really hot right now. Jorge, he's got kind of his hands in all these other projects. He's got the Game Bred boxing going on. I think he's sort of has his interests elsewhere besides fighting, at least is the impression. I mean, he seems pretty locked in. I'm not even gonna lie, he seems pretty locked. But it's got to be tough when you have all this other distractions going on to stay 100% focused. So, hope Jorge proves me wrong, but I think Gilbert Burns gets the win here. I think he could sub Jorge. Jorge does have underrated jiu-jitsu, but Gilbert's definitely on another level. And then finally, we have the main event that we've been waiting for what feels like not a long time at all. It feels like their fight in November was like last week. This is like we blinked and it's the rematch already. But Izzy versus Pereira. Izzy wants his belt back. Pereira wants to prove that he just owns Izzy in every way possible. And I'll be honest, I think Pereira gets the win again. He said it himself. The matchup is just so horrible for Izzy, and unless Izzy has just been training like wrestling his whole camp, which I kind of doubt. I think Pereira is just genuinely with the smaller gloves in the UFC, I think that benefits Pereira, and I think he just has the edge in striking. Yes, he got caught in their first fight, but that was at the end of the round, and I wonder if that sort of impacted Pereira's decision-making at all, where he kind of got complacent, thinking he could get away with some stuff because there's only 10 seconds left, and he got caught because of that. I don't know, just a possibility. But, I mean, I really think this is one of the best matchups in UFC. I wonder if they do a trilogy, if Izzy manages to get the belt off Pereira, just because it's that electric of a matchup. And Izzy, like, let's be real, he doesn't prove a whole lot by winning this fight unless he actually has a sensational finish. Pereira's just gonna be like 3-1, bro. Like, congratulations, you took one off me. It took you 4 tries. So I think Izzy honestly has a lot more to lose than to gain by taking this fight. I respect the hell out of him for taking it, and I would absolutely love to watch these guys fight as many times as they cared to. I just think it's such a interesting matchup. If you really think about it, Pereira is basically Bizarro World Izzy. I kind of have this theory. I love that anytime Izzy does anything, and I recommend people look out for this during the fight, Pereira actually goes out of his way to do the opposite. Jesus. 2 examples. Izzy, in his Gastelum fight, had that famous moment where his face is all messed up, his lips, like, bottom lip's twice the size of his top lip, or the other way around, and he goes, "I'm prepared to die." Alex, in his Strickland fight, he says, "I'm prepared to kill." Okay? So there's a little opposites happening right there. I thought that was insane. And then in their fight, Izzy tries shushing the crowd down, and then as soon as that happens, Pereira, being the instigator, he gets the crowd going. And it's so good. It's just phenomenal entertainment. I love the fact that Pereira just is the pettiest dude ever. And style-wise, I think Pereira just the fallacy here would be like, oh, Pereira's won 3 times, Israel's due for a win, but that's just not really the case in the fight game. I think 3 wins in a row just shows that the matchup is terrible for Izzy. Pereira's got the length. He's got the durability to take a few shots from Izzy, and if they're going to be just exchanging punches in the pocket, that's going to benefit Pereira every single time. And I think Pereira kind of figured out by the end of last fight that when he goes predator mode, good things happen. So I think we can maybe see that early on in the fight. Pereira's going to hunt down the KO a lot quicker and really bring the fight to Izzy quicker than he tried to last time. And I think that'd be wise for him to do. The only thing that sort of gives me pause is that he went and trained in Thailand, which obviously, no disrespect to the Thai or anything at all. It has nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that, like, why are you switching up your training camp after you just got to win? That's the only thing that seems a little weird to me. And I kind of was concerned that him and Glover maybe had like a falling out, but I think it's absolutely nothing like that. Glover is still clowning on him and stuff. So clearly that was something that they had discussed, and I'm sure Glover gave him his blessing and said that's a good idea. Like, you got to bring a new look. Izzy's definitely going to come in a new fighter, so Pereira has to evolve as well. So this is going to be a hell of a fight. Pereira is the pick. I'll say it by KO. I think he gets a KO again, and that's a nightmare for Izzy. Yeah, I don't know what he does if he gets KO'd again. I mean, I think Izzy's such a psycho that he could get flatlined in 30 seconds, like just put clean out. And I think he's still the type of dude who goes home, looks in the mirror, and is like, I'm way better than that dude. Like, he just got lucky. So that mentality definitely benefits Izzy, but at the end of the day, Pereira owns you. It really is as simple as that. Pereira owns you, Izzy. But that's my breakdown. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful time watching the fights. I think I'll try and post a little reaction sometime next week after the fights, thoughts, where do we go from here. I'm going to try and be a little more active for my 3 or 4 viewers who I probably know in real life, all of them, but much love. That's it.